Hello and welcome to another D&D Stories. I am your host, TheWriter. This is the show where I sit here and regale you with all the tabletop gaming stories and remember when something cool happened. So, today we return once more to the campaign of Oceanrim, and Lady Firefall has promised us a Paladin to help us go into the Mage Academy vaults. So, if you recall, Fudo Padclaw and Alzak, the superior scholar, wandered into the antechamber and emerged 4 seconds later with the key to the vault in tow. So, time and space meant nothing in there, and they spend the rest of the day kind of taking it easy while Lady Firefall goes to see the Archbishop of the Iomedean Church. Now, I chose to make sure they didn't go to this meeting because it would have just been me talking to myself for 20 or 30 minutes while Lady Firefall explains everything to the Archbishop, begs for help, begs for a paladin to help our heroes, and so on and so forth. So they didn't actually go to that meeting, but of course, as I said before, when one faction leader goes to talk with another for an extended amount of time, they tend to listen. So, we arrive with our third, or rather fourth, if you count Mattias, our fourth party member, who is named Talitha Whiteflower. She is a paladin of the Iomedean Church, a 12th level paladin. Can you imagine starting a game at level 12? Holy crap. Her backstory goes into things like slaying necromancers and protecting the common man and saving the orphans from the burning building. A fairly stereotypical, like Joan of Arc, badass, warrior of the light kind of thing. Full plate mail, long sword and shield, sword and board. A tanky kind of character that can help take care of the boys, because both of them are ranged, squishy characters that not ought to be on the front lines. So, Lady Firefall lets the Church of Iomede kind of in on what's happening, that, Lord Cthulhu, great Lord Cthulhu is coming through this portal, and that Serpentina is going to set bombs in Oceanrim and drop a greater portion of it into the sea so that you can knock him back into the elemental plane of water and then slam the portal closed behind him. But this will result in tens of thousands of deaths. So they're going after the Great Earth Sphere that is in the Mage Academy vaults. So they went and got the key, and now they have a new ally, a paladin, Talitha Whiteflower, and the Lady Firefall kind of sits them down, kind of introduces everybody. This is Prince Fudo of the Padclaw tribe, the Bullet Slayer, blah, blah, blah. And then, this is Alzak, this the prodigy of the Mage Academy, recent graduate student, my protege. This is Talitha Whiteflower, slayer of necromancers, protector of the common man, warrior of the light, Church of Iomede, etc., etc. And kind of lets them mingle for a few hours, share a meal, kind of get used to looking at each other. Because we're pretty late in the campaign to be introducing a new party member, but we need, two's not enough. We need to send at least one more person with them into these vaults, because much like the antechamber, it's not safe down there. So they need some extra oomph, some extra muscle, some extra armor. So this makes everybody feel much better that they have a tank to cover their ranged DPS asses. So after a while, Lady Firefall lets them in on a secret about the Mages Academy vault, that in order to get in, you actually need a member of the Iomedean Church. And they go, why is that? She said, well, once upon a time, several hundred years ago, when the vault was being created, it was meant mostly for pagan artifacts. Things that would summon demons, or like monkey's paws or cursed objects, things that you couldn't let go of unless somebody took them from you or unless you died, and things like that. Things that not ought to see the light of day or are too powerful to be used, etc., etc. or are so like inundated with death that these shouldn't be on the market. These shouldn't be wielded by anybody. It's bad juju and things like that. And the Iomedean Church volunteered to help the Mage Academy build basically like a strong box. Like that's kind of what they were going for, was just a big strong box to store all these really dangerous artifacts in one place. And then the Mage Academy created the antechamber to put the key in there, so it's not very likely at all that anybody would ever go in there and come out alive, much less with the key. And then to get in to the vault itself, you needed both the key, which only somebody from the Mages Academy could get, and you needed the presence of an Iomedean Paladin or Cleric to wield holy magic to open the vault itself. So you needed one person from each faction. And, nowadays, the church and the Mages Academy don't necessarily get along very well, because it's basically science versus religion. If you remember, we kind of classified magic as one of, like, the hard sciences, because we're always describing magic circles and all the algebra and stuff that Alzak is doing to work out his spells. So magic kind of falls under science in this setting, and religion is its own thing. So we have arcane magic and divine magic. That's how we kind of separate the spheres. But so you need one person from each faction to get in, and Lady Firefall gives Alzak like a rolled up map of Oceanrim. She said, "This is the location of the vault. Burn or destroy this or whatever once you've read it and once you've arrived there, because nobody needs to know where this place is. It's not in any place where anybody would expect to look, but there doesn't need to be paper evidence of where it is. So please destroy this when you're done, once you're ready to set out." And she leaves them to their own devices. And Alzak is super eager, like he really wants to know where the vault is, and he opens it. The vault is in a bank. And they kind of look at each other. There's like this wah, wah, wah kind of moment. And Fudo's like, "Well, I guess you would never really look there with all the normal vaults." So they take the key. They go to like the First National Bank of Oceanrim, like down just in the square somewhere. It's a perfectly public building. And they bring in the key and they put it up on the desk, and this lady behind the counter has probably never seen this vault be opened, so they bring like a cart and some bags and like a privacy curtain, and they guide them down this hallway, and it's just a big steel door with a keyhole. And of course, Fudo lifts the key up. It's higher up than he is, because again, he's disguised as like an 8-year-old boy, so they don't see that he's a kobold. And he turns the key, kerchunk, and the key disappears, and they assume it goes back to the antechamber, because you would have to go get it every time you want to get in here. And then the little panel pops open, and it's got a symbol of the Church of Iomede. It's like a wheel of gold that is on fire. It's a really esoteric kind of symbol. And Talitha kind of puts her hand on it and casts Cure Light Wounds, and all the little sparkly crystals on the door light up, and the door swings all the way open. And, the lady from behind the counter goes, "We'll set a squire here in case you need anything, and we will wait for you to come out again," because they know there's like passages back there. It's not just a box for them to go inside. So they go down, down, down into the underground of Oceanrim, and then through another one of those not stargates to another place, another dimension, another plane of existence, and they emerge into like a white stoned hallway with gold filigree on the columns, cigar-shaped columns like they don't make anymore. And it's very well lit by ever-burning torches. It's very clean. There's no dust anywhere. There's, a deep red carpet that goes down the middle of the hallway, and they're all just kind of standing there looking around for a while. And then they enter like a series of like small challenges. Like they come up to a big chalkboard that's covered with arcane symbols and algebra and math problems to figure out how this spell would work. And of course, Alzak goes up there and he scratches his chin and he rolls the knowledge arcane. He's like, oh, there should be a 7 right here. So he picks up the chalk and he puts a 7 on it, and the chalkboard moves to one side to reveal the passage beyond. And then they go on for a little further, and then there's a big giant symbol of the Church of Iomedae down there, the burning wheel of the Inheritor. And Iomedae is like a Judeo-Christian kind of god, but she's also known as the Inheritor. Basically, she did like a dozen tasks or something like that and rose to godhood because there was a vacuum of power in the pantheon at the time. So she did like labors or quests or whatever you want to call that to rise to become a god. So she's an inspiration to paladins because she was a paladin in her mortal life, if I remember my lore right. There's a couple of pages on her in like Faiths of Purity or whatever that book is called. There's not a lot of information on the gods in Pathfinder, but that was just the story we went with. She was a paladin that rose to be a god through all her great deeds. And other paladins follow her because she's the god of paladins. But Talitha kind of pulls out her sword and she sticks it into the wall and, casts, one of her smite per days to light up the symbol on the wall and all the crystals around it. And she turns it like a key, kerchunk, and pulls her sword out and sheaths it again, and a big section of the wall moves aside. And just a bunch of little things like that. Yes, check. We've got a Mages Academy person. Yes, check. We've got a paladin of the Church of Iomedae. It's like she knows that this symbol is for like an archangel of Iomedae, and this symbol Alzak knows is how you turn iron into lead according to the laws of alchemy, blah, blah, blah. Stuff like that to make sure that they've got one person from each faction. And Fudo is kind of like third fiddle right now because he's been the star for so long. I kind of made him third fiddle in this game, but I have a bad habit of making like one person the star of the show in some of my campaigns, so I was trying my best to make sure that Alzak and our new paladin friend Talitha had time to kind of shine. But after like a handful of these like little challenges, not especially like crazy hard, just to like make sure again that they've got one person from each faction present, they eventually come to the vault itself. And it's a big pair of double doors. They push open the big doors, and they're made of mahogany. And the doors swing shut behind them, and they are greeted with 3 doors. And on them are a set of plaques that read primary, secondary, and tertiary. And no, this is not another color wheel puzzle, but the vault is separated into 3 sections. The tertiary place is a big, like, warehouse where you would stick unlucky things or things that were too powerful, things that had bad stories behind them, etc., etc., like a mass murderer's sword of blasting. This sword has killed over 200 people. It should never see the light of day again, no matter who's wielding it. They would stick it in the tertiary place. Or there's the secondary vault, which is much, much smaller, that only hosts like a dozen items that are just really awful, like monkey's paws or like beads from a necklace that if you throw it in the ocean, it absorbs 20,000 gallons of water and grows to the size of a building. Weird stuff that really there's no great use for, that not ought to be out there. And then there's the primary vault, which only has a few things in it, like a very small number of items, among which is the Great Earth Sphere. And Lady Firefall left like all these notes on the back of the map, and Alzak kind of shreds it after a while once they've absorbed that information. So there's like a great big warehouse, there's a long hallway, and then there's like the main place. And they're like, well, the Great Earth Sphere, is in the primary vault, so we're just going to go in there. I was really scared they were just each going to pick a door and split up, and that would not have been good because the vault is very dangerous, and somebody would have gone down hard. So they go into the primary vault straight away, just right down the center, and they emerge into like this big like cathedral style room that has big sweeping columns and windows with fires behind them, so it lights all the stained glass pictures of like angels and the Church of Iomedean symbols and golden crosses and things like that. And standing up on a dais at the very back of the room, this is like an 80 by 300 room, it's huge and there's almost nothing in it. Standing at the very back of the room, like up on a dais, is an angel. Now, this is not like a robe-wearing harp on a cloud somewhere angel. This is a soldier. This guy's in golden plate mail. He's 8 feet tall. He's got bronze skin. His eyes are, they glow and burn like dragon's eyes with like the fires of heaven. He's got a 50-foot wingspan and like a giant two-handed mace, and he kind of like twists the shaft of the mace and all the spikes jut out. This is a war machine. This is like a guardian of the vault, and he kind of stands there like staring at them. He's like the same kind of big and heavy that like Sauron was in the Lord of the Rings movies. You remember when he wades out into battle? He's like 3 times bigger than anybody else, and he's just like impossibly big and heavy looking. That's kind of how big this guy is. And he kind of hefts his mace up onto his shoulder, and he waits for them to approach. And, Talitha's kind of like looking at him sideways, and, looking at her 2 friends is like, can we talk to him? And I go, yeah, absolutely. He's an angel. He's a creature of fire and divine light. And, he's absolutely, sentient, sapient. You can talk to him, absolutely. So they go and they ask him about the primary vault. Says that they're there to look for the great earth sphere, but he doesn't want them to go by. He goes, Iomade has charged me to guard the primary vault of the Mages Academy. You cannot pass. And he kind of hefts his mace down, and just the sheer weight of the weapon is enough to split the ground. And they're like, what has he been doing down here for hundreds of years? And they kind of look to one side, and there's like a pulpit where there's like a gigantic holy book. It's like, have you ever tried to memorize a 3,000-page book? It's really difficult. But he's not going to let them by, because God says don't let anybody into the vault. And they're like, should we have brought like a missive or a permission slip or something? And he goes, no one gets by me. Iomade says that no one is to enter this vault, for the contents are too dangerous. The 5 items within are not for mortal hands anymore. And Talitha kind of steps up to plead with him, because, it's her religion. So this is a soldier of her god. And he goes, please, we must get by. If Great Lord Cthulhu comes through the portal and turns the whole world to brine and ash, this world will die. Millions of people, billions of lives will be affected. And it's like, I don't care. If this world were to fail and, fall into darkness, I would merely go back to my garrison, check off that mission, and receive a new one. This is my charge, and without exception, no one is to go by me. And they're kind of looking him over, because he's like, I don't remember what they were called. Something devas, like proper angels that are like statted in the bestiaries. They're like CR12s at the very least. And, this party is around level 11, level 12, but they're not used to dealing with like holy damage, plate wearer. He's obviously a warrior, so how many times is he going to swing during his one turn? If I remember right, his mace was like a D10 plus 8. So every single round is like 3d10 plus 24 damage. Jesus Christ, you would suck to be you. If he had even like a single level in fighter, which he does because he's level 12, so he's going to be swinging 3, 4, 6 times, whatever his full attack is, to do a d10 plus 8 every time, and he's going to hit. He's a soldier. So This is not something that they're used to dealing with. They've dealt with demons and things from beyond the stars and lizard folk and all kinds of other weird things. I've said in the past, demons are scary, angels are worse. This is that situation. It's like, there's three of us. Do you think we can take him? No. Can we fight should we fight an angel? Like Talitha is really, all the dogma is flying around in her head. Like, would she instantly lose her paladin powers if she fights an angel of God? And, probably not, but he's not going to let them by, so they kind of back off for a while. They decide they're going to explore the other two chambers of the vault. Maybe there's like a password or a missive or something that would help them get by. So they go into the secondary vault, which is of course guarded by another angel. This one isn't as scary. It's like a secondary sphere angel. It's this beautiful woman in like see-through silks that has like leather straps all around like the upper half of her head, so you can't see her eyes, and she's got the pink little lipstick lips and the gigantic long-fingered hands. She's kind of otherworldly and spooky with her pale skin and her heavenly glow and her gigantic fucking wings. Like, how do they get through the doorways? Well, they don't. They just guard the vaults. And as Lady Firefall described, the secondary vault has maybe 24 items in it, like all on pedestals, all under glass. And at the very end of the hallway, there's a statue with its hands cupped, and they can kind of see that what looks like a wish ring laying in that statue's hands. And they kind of talk with this angel for a while to see if she knows anything. She is, again, far friendlier. Be welcome to the vault of the Mages Academy. How can I help you? Kind of like if you've ever been to like Karazhan and fought the giant robot boss. It was, the menagerie is for guests only. That kind of voice. It's just kind of spooky. She doesn't let them touch anything, but she's not like an aggressive dick about it like the other guy. So she lets them wander around. Talitha casts Detect Evil to kind of sweep over the items, and about a third of the items are evil. There's like a leather glove that when you touch somebody, they begin to asphyxiate immediately. There's a pair of shoulder guards that look like dragons' heads that spew black smoke. The pauldrons of the dragon's grin. It makes you more intimidating by magic. That's kind of evil. And, different things like that. But there's also just unusual stuff that not ought to be wielded lightly. Like there's a necklace of blasting in there. It's got 50 beads on it. You pull one bead and throw it, and it's like a thunderclap that's like a flashbang grenade. It really sucks. So if you threw the whole thing, it would destroy a city block. So you got to be really careful with shit like that. So again, it's all under glass, so you can't take it. But they kind of skirt around this angel for a while just to see what kind of stuff is in there. And they ask her about the other guy. Is there any way to get past the angel in the primary vault? And she tells them no, that is his mission, to stand between the 5 items in the primary vault and whomsoever should come in. And he's probably killed a number of people that try to get by him. So, don't mess with him and you won't die, basically. Iomedae be with you. Farewell. And they go, all right, well, there's no, like, permission slip or password. No, I'm afraid not. Iomedae be with you. Mwah. And they leave and they go out into the main room again. And then they go over to the tertiary vault, which is basically Warehouse 13. It's just rows and rows and rows of crates and boxes and God knows what else. All alphabetized and carefully stored with straw and sheets thrown over stuff. Statues that watch them go by that have vampires' teeth and don't go too close to them, and giant wooden crates with the lost seeing stones. There's two of them right here, and if you touch one, you can see everything around the other one. That's kind of dangerous to have around. And it's all arranged alphabetically, so they go to E and look for, Earth sphere, comma, great, and it's not there. And they go into G, great Earth sphere, it's not there either, because of course it's not. And this was kind of me offering them some magic items, because the only guardian of the tertiary vault was a helmet angel. Now, helmet angels are exactly what they sound like. They basically look like big golden helmets. There's no person, it's just a helmet itself with wings sticking out to either side, so it could like slam itself onto your head, lock onto your neck, and then take off flying and take you for a ride. But it's like a tertiary angel. It's not very powerful. It's easy to shatter. It reforms in heaven, and it comes back in like 1d4 days. So you can't kill them, but they're kind of easy to stop. And after it harasses Fudo for a while, it jams itself onto his head. It's not a good fit because of his muzzle, and it takes off flying. And, Talitha grabs him by the ankles and hauls him back down again, and they break a bunch of crates. And Alzak kind of blasts it with his Snapcaster Dragon, and then Talitha shield bashes it to one side and then swings her holy sword at it, and it shatters into a million pieces, and it's gone, screeching like an eagle. And it's a much lesser servant of Iomedae. It's not a possessed object, but like an imbued object with the wings of an angel, but it's gone. So the Guardian of the Tertiary Vault was not a big problem, but it was far more aggressive, so it attacked them first, but now it's not going to come back for a D4 of days. And they go, wow, there's all this stuff in here, can we look for this? Can we look for that? And I was like, yeah, go ahead. There's nobody here to stop you. And I was really scared for a few seconds that they would just kind of raid the place, there's a warehouse full of magic items here. We should outfit ourselves. And they didn't actually do it. Plus they have Talitha there looking after them, who's basically like a police officer or a superhero or something. It's don't take more than you need. So Alzak finds some glasses of true sight while he's there, because being able to see the truth in a campaign like this is a big deal. And then I believe Talitha found what was it, a dragon's, not a dragon's bane sword, but like a dragon's avenger sword or something like that. You could pull it out of the sheath, and once per day it could catch fire and be a D12 instead of a D8 for one battle or something like that. It was really cool. And Fudo doesn't really find anything. He goes looking for different crossbow bolts, and he finds a few here and there, but nothing really huge for him. He's kind of decked out as it is, with all of his birthday presents and the Cloak of Elvenkind and the great crossbow he's got. He doesn't really need anything, so he doesn't really go looking for any gigantic upgrades. Most of his stuff is storyline based items, so they emerge from the tertiary vault and they're like, well, we can't not get the sphere. We've come too far. So, and they stand about for a while kind of eating their rations and discussing, maybe Talitha can challenge him to a duel or something to get by. Can you duel an angel? Should you duel an angel? And they decide this is the best course of action, because if they can best him in honorable combat, surely he will step aside. So they finish their rations and they kind of brush the crumbs off their faces, and they go over into the primary vault again. And of course, the soldier angel is still standing there, arms kind of folded, his gigantic mace sitting to one side of him, and he's behind the pulpit looking at the 3,000-page holy book. It's probably just an Iomedaean Bible or something like that, but because there's a lot of backstory to Iomedae, because she's had 12 quests to become a god, and then you've got all the other things she did after she became a god. So that, plus her dogma, makes for a gigantic Bible, so he's got plenty to read. And he sees them coming again, and he picks up his mace. He's like, oh, these guys again. And puts, hefts the mace over his shoulder, and he comes down from the dais. Boom, boom, boom. They can feel it in the floor beneath their feet. And he leaves like little scorch marks in the stone behind him. It's like the fact that as a creature of God, full of fire and light, is compressed into this tiny physical form. Angels are roughly the size of the Chrysler building. So the fact that they crammed him into this tiny shape, it's like his physical form can barely withstand the fury and fire of God. And, he leaves like a smoky trail everywhere he goes. He's badass. And again, this kind of angel is only a CR 12, and they're around level 12, but that doesn't mean they're going to get by him. Like, the unique qualities of an angel are more than enough for him to kick them around like so many soccer balls. But they step up to this guy. He's like, what do you want now? I've already told you cannot enter the vault. Iomade proclaims it. And they go, Angel of Iomade, Talitha Whiteflower will duel you for the right to enter the vault at your back. For you are an honorable soldier and creature of God, are you not? And he goes, no, I've told you, you are not going in. You jackwads, if you want to get by me, you would all three have to come at me with all your fire and fury, and I would still beat all your asses, or in so many words. I would still beat all of your asses and send you back with your tails between your legs. And he twists the shaft of his mace, and it makes all the spikes spring free. So, the head of this mace is as big as Talitha's head. It's gigantic. And he, draws a line in the floor, and, the brickwork just kind of splits as he makes this, aggro line in the sand. And he goes and he steps back for a bit, this is my aggro line. Come at me, bro. And he just kind of folds his arms and waits to see what they'll do. So, of course, given the opportunity, they start passing out buff spells. Because Talitha has Holy Blessings, Alzak has Haste, Fudo can put the cartridge into his repeating crossbow. They've got a bunch of stuff they can do that'll last for whatever amount of battle that they have to do for this. And Talitha summons her Paladin horse, because Paladins have the ability to summon a spectral horse, or even a real horse that they can ride for X amount of time with a spell. So she's going to go in on mounted combat, which is probably for the best, because this angel is 8 feet tall, and one over-the-head swing would be enough to squish whoever was in front of him. So being up on a horse is probably to her advantage. And plus, she can, charge and joust, or charge and swing, or just, run by him, or gallop past him to take a swing at him as she goes. And I was like, this guy's in plate mail, so, the only part of him that is exposed is, his head and, the base of his wings. The rest of this is, golden armor from the blacksmiths of heaven. So, good luck, you bunch of assholes. So, as per usual, Alzak goes, I have a plan. You guys distract him. So Alzak kind of steps back, and he opens up one of his scrolls, and he starts to kind of work his mojo, work his magic, with sparkles of magic and stuff gathering to his hands, gathering to his cause. So Talitha and Fudo go to fight him in 2-on-1. So Fudo runs to one side, just kind of giving him a wide berth, shooting at him with the repeating crossbow, while Talitha charges in on her horse, right into his face to swing at him with her great sword, with her long sword. And the angel, of course, responds in kind, hefting his mace and bashing Talitha right off of her horse, which, of course, bursts into sparks and magic-y pixie dust because she's not on it anymore. And she goes tumbling across the ground like a skipping stone. And Fudo circles around back and starts like shooting him in the back because that's the only spot of his armor that is exposed. So he's kind of at an indecision right now. Does he go after the Paladin or does he go after the tiny kobold? Because Fudo actually had a whole bunch of bonuses that applied to, when you're a ranger. When you're a ranger within 30 feet, when you've got this kind of weapon, when you've got this kind of feat, he had like 5 or 6 layers of like bonuses, +1, +2, +1, +3, that just added onto his rolls so that he was actually the only one doing like consistent damage because he had a +2 weapon also. So he had like a great big bunch of bonuses to throw on top of whatever rolls he made to attack. And he was actually, like, peppering this guy in the back every single turn. It was only, like, a d6 +2 plus some icy damage or something like that. But it was better than nothing. Because as soon as Talitha got up to, like, cross swords with this guy, she couldn't get through his plate mail. So if you can imagine, like, the weird, like, again, like, fires of heaven shit that goes on when an angel and a paladin fight each other on like an even plane. So he's got like the two-handed mace, she's got the big holy long swords, like smite per day, big giant mace. And you can see the ring of dust fly away from them. You can see like the pebbles that are on the ground jump away from them at the gigantic impact. And you can see both of them glowing with the power of Iomedae as they go at each other like a pair of Jedi masters. And of course, Talitha is going to get worn down first because she has way less armor than him, and he's a much bigger, like size category than she is. I think I treated him as a large creature, but he's that much bigger, and he's basically got levels in fighter, so he can swing a lot more often than she can and do a lot more damage. So she actually had to use Lay of Hands on herself. That's the touch something and heal it spell that all paladins get. And she's level 12, so she can actually do that for quite a bit and heal herself. But it's a war of attrition against this guy, and he is beating the fuck out of her. Like, her shield starts to crack, her sword starts to give out. She throws the sword to one side, pulls the one she got in the tertiary bolt. She ignites the blade on fire. It's like, this is like the dragon sword of blasting or whatever it is. It goes from a d6 or a d8 up to a d12 plus her strength. Boom! Giant explosion of fire and another ring of dust rushes away from them. It's like something out of fucking Dragon Ball Z. He pumps his wings and jumps into the air and, overhead swing. And she leaps out of the way just in time for a gigantic crater to appear in the ground. It's this ridiculous fucking fight. Until finally, Alzak's like, all right, I'm ready. Circle of protection against good. And as soon as the angel's feet touch the ground, a giant fiery magic circle jumps up and sticks him to the spot. And the battle is instantly over. Like, Talitha is laying on her side to one side with like her sword up to protect herself, and Fudo's like still got his crossbow, but the angel stops where he is. There's a big circle at his feet that just kind of ignites into existence, and it's like burned into the floor. And circle of protection against good is just what it sounds like. The angel is standing in it, and he can't leave. He rolls the save, and he's stuck there. So he's got like a 10-foot radius to wander around in. He can't leave it for, let's see, Alzak was level 12, so 120 minutes. So 2 hours, he's stuck in that circle, and he can't leave. And I was like, damn it, Alzak. So Alzak's plan was to stick him to one spot, run into the vault, grab the Great Earth Sphere, and leave as fast as they can. They're not going to spend 2 hours in a vault that's only got 5 things in it. So that was the safest thing that Alzak could think to do, because God knows an Iomedean angel has magic resist and damage resist and elemental resist and stuff like that. They were hurting him, don't get me wrong, but they weren't going to win, not at that rate. Because as soon as Talitha runs up to him, a full attack from this angel was like 3 attacks or 6 attacks or something. You were guaranteed 27 damage per turn. They weren't going to last. So Alzak sticks him to this spot, and he kind of looks down, and he's like, but he can't go anywhere. So he sits his mace to one side, and he folds his wings, and he folds his arms, and he's like, just he can't get to him. And they kind of look around at the craters and all the anytime he swung his mace, it was like he dug a ditch somewhere, whether he hit somebody or not. So half of the damn room is rough terrain now because he busted up everything he touched. So they kind of gather up again. It's like, is that enough? Is that going to hold him? And Alzak's like, yeah. The spell lasts for 10 minutes per level. I'm level 12. That's 120 minutes. That's plenty of time. Leave him there. We'll be in the vault and gone before it wears off. And they're like, all right. So they go up the dais and into the gigantic double doors, and they push them open. They groan because it's been centuries since anybody has actually been in here. And the primary vault is a rather small half-circle shaped room. It's got 5 items set up on pedestals, and among which is the Great Earth Sphere. Now, the other things in there were not really defined. There was a black bead that shone like the edge of the cosmos of black, and there was a grubby leather glove that they couldn't figure out what it did, but it radiated that radiated with all the evil that you could imagine. It had knives on the end of it, and there was a couple of other things in there, but in the center was the Great Earth Sphere under glass. And again, it just looks like a dirt clod covered with vines and moss and stuff like that. So it doesn't look that wild, but Alzak casts Detect Magic, and sure enough, it almost overwhelms him. It's like looking into the sun. He's like, well, I've got my gloves on. I take the little glass thing off, and I grab it, and I'm going to put it in a burlap sack, and then put that sack in a sack, and then put that sack in a sack, so nobody accidentally touches it. Because you remember, Lady Firefall said that if you touch it barehanded, that, the essence of the primordial magic within will overtake you and blow your brains out. So Alzak is very careful to handle it with gloves. Woo. But he sticks it in 3 different sacks, and then he puts it in his handy haversack and just kind of leaves it there. Nobody touch it. I tied it up 3 times and then stuck it in my inventory. So it's there. Nobody try to take it because it will kill you. And they're like, okay. They put the glass thing back, and they turn around, and they go back out into the big cathedral-sized room, only to find that the angel is already loose from the circle of protection against good. He's like, your first mistake was leaving me alone. That gave me more than enough time to concentrate and dispel your stupid magic circle. And he's like, you dead! And he hefts his giant mace, and they're like, fuck! And they're like, run for it! And they all go in different directions, and of course he goes straight after Alzak and just does the the spinning attack that you see in video games with Link when he charges up the Master Sword and then spins. This guy pumps his wings and spins through the air with this giant mace and tags Alzak in the back, sending him careening like ass over tea kettle across the room, for like 40 damage, 42 damage, just this obnoxious amount of blunt mace damage. He's bleeding down the back of his wizard robes, and Fudo like shoulder checks the doors open as they're trying to leave, like they're gonna make it out at all. And Talitha summons her horse again and like rides past Alzak and like grabs him by the arm and hefts him up over like on his belly up over her horse. She's like, "Come on, we gotta go." And this angel chases them all the way to the edge of the room where Fudo is waiting to slam the doors in his face as though the doors are going to hold him. And as soon as the horse runs over the threshold, the angel kind of pumps his wings and stops like right in the doorway. And Fudo checks the doorway for runes, like, is this guy held here like the other monsters in the antechamber? But no, he stops voluntarily. And, Fudo is maybe 1/3 this guy's height, so he's, like, maybe up to his thighs. And, it's an angel of Iomade looks down at this little kobold, this kobold princeling who's from the middle of nowhere. And he can feel, I was like, Fudo, you can feel the heat. You can feel the light and the divine fires of heaven just standing near this guy. The only reason Talitha didn't burn when she hit him with her sword is because she's imbued with the same holy magic. And he's like, I kind of take one step back. Like, it's very intimidating. Somebody thrice your size who trained to kill things in heaven and stuff like that. And I say, he grabs the doorknob and kind of smirks down at you a little bit. And he goes, your world turns to brine around you. Good luck. And he pulls the doors closed and locks them in front of you. And Fudo kind of stands there like a bead of sweat goes down the side of his face. And he's like, ah. It's like he let you go, basically. You got past him twice. So that's basically the only way you can withdraw something from the primary vault is to either, kill him and, he comes back in 1d4 days. You can either kill him or get by him twice. That's the only way to get something out of the primary vault. So once you cross the threshold, you were safe. And Fudo's like, oh, God. I was like, no. Oh, Iomade. He's like, shut up. So they got away from this Deva, this soldier angel, relatively in one piece. So Alzak had to kind of strip to the waist and let Talitha kind of touch his bare back to do lay on hands, to do some healing spells and stuff like that. It's like, well, ow, not right there, ow. Well, we got the Great Earth Sphere. He kind of pulls his wizard robes back on, which is shredded because he took like a direct hit from this guy. It's like, you're going to need new robes pretty soon. And he's like, no, they're magic robes. I can just stitch them up. And I was like, But, we got the Great Earth Sphere. Yeah. So they go back to the Stargate, or whatever you want to call it, to leave the vault. And they emerge back out into the First National Bank of Oceanrim, where there is a squire waiting for them, like, at a desk. He's got, like, busy work to do. And he looks up, he's like, wow, you're back. Welcome back. And Alzak is, of course, the first to ask, child, how long were we gone? And he goes, about 2 weeks. And they go, 2 weeks? What? And I go, remember, you went into one of the Stargate things. The time and space mean nothing in the other dimensions, so it did not work in your favor this time. So the first time they were gone for 4 seconds, and they were in there for 3 days. This time they were probably there for like an hour and a half, and they emerge, and 2 weeks have gone by. So, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff, it did not work in their favor this time. So they shut the primary door of the vault, the one that needed the key, and Talitha reseals it with her magic, and they close the panel, and they go back out, and they go directly to Lady Firefall, and they're like, we got it, we have it now. We can measure this and do Alzak's spell and everything like that. And we probably need to chase down Serpentina and stuff like that. And Lady Firefall kind of raises a hand to quiet them and goes, don't worry, the Paladins of the Church of Iomedae have already captured Serpentina. And they go, really? She said, you were gone for 2 weeks. We weren't sure you were coming back after a while. Remember, I told you I was going to act as though you were not returning when you went into the antechamber. The vault is just as dangerous. And Alzak goes, yeah, the vault is just as dangerous. You could have told me that there was an angel of God in there waiting to kick our asses. And she goes, I have never been into the vault, so I cannot tell you its contents. Very few people can. Anybody that's left alive, so not really most of them, because elves are few and far between in Oceanrim. So Lady Firefall doesn't know the defenses that are inside the vault, because the fewer people that know, the better. So she tells them that, they were proactive while they were gone. They weren't just going to let Serpentina and her followers run around while Fudo and Alzak and Talitha were going after the Great Earth Sphere. They're Paladins of Iomedae. They're the Mages Academy. They can do shit when the heroes aren't around. And they go, wow, that's really convenient. So where is she now? And Lady Firefall says, well, the Church of Iomedae and Paladins, went down into the underground, into the catacombs, as you described them, because you told me that Serpentina never leaves Oceanrim, so it was only X number of places to go. So they sent a whole battalion of Paladins down into these lower catacombs, and they killed most of the cult members, and they captured Serpentina alive. And as soon as the city guard, the state, as soon as the state found out about this, they commandeered Serpentina, and she's being held in a city guard fortress. And they go, oh, okay. And they say, they've been interrogating Serpentina nonstop for almost a week, and she hasn't told them anything, but she keeps asking for you, Prince Fudo. And Fudo kind of looks at his friends, and she goes, well, I should probably visit her. If she's not saying anything to anybody, despite any torture, she might have something to say to me. So, they stop, they clean up, Alzak kind of stitches up his robes real quick, and they pass out, the healing spells to make sure he's not going to get an infection from the angel that hit him in the back like a Mack truck. And they go to the city guard fortress. And of course, with Lady Firefall being there and a paladin of the Church of Iomedae, it's not hard for Fudo to get in either. That they are asking after this one person, or this woman is asking after one person, so they can kind of get a private audience. If the headmistress of the Mages Academy is there to deliver this person. So once they get in, they go all the way down into the dungeon, into like the torture chambers and stuff like that. And they dismiss the guy that was there to torment this poor woman. And the guards and everybody else is like, give us like half an hour. We'll find out as much as we can. And as soon as they're gone, Fudo, pulls down the hood, the disguise of the 8-year-old boy goes away, and he's a kobold again. And he kind of pulls off his bullet helmet and sets it aside. And I go, Fudo, she looks terrible. Like, they were expecting to, like, find her in a cell somewhere with, like, straw to lay on and maybe some bread and butter and water next to her. No. They've been torturing her, like, nonstop. When they heard that Serpentina was going to blow up part of Oceanrim and that she was the leader of a cult and that all this world-ending shit was happening, the kid gloves came off. So she is, like, chained to the wall with, like, her wrists way up above her head. She's stripped to the waist. She has no shoes. She's covered with bruises and other, like, torturous implements. There's burn marks on every one of her ribs. She's bare-breasted. She's got, like, clamps on, like, the small of her neck where it hurts the most. She's missing one of her teeth. She has a black eye. She's got blood and semen stains on her pants. She's been put through the ringer by paladins, by city guardsmen, by torture artists, by everybody. She looks like a chewed up piece of chewing gum, and sort of quiet comes across the party, where they kind of look at this poor pathetic creature that is all that remains, pretty much, of the cult, if the rest of them have been either killed or scattered. And of course, she's laying like with her head down, and she kind of looks up when she smells a kobold in the room, because she's flat faced, but she's still got the lizard folk blood in her. And again, she's albino, so she's white as snow with pink eyes. And she goes, "Look who it is, Prince Fudo Padclaw." And she goes, "Serpentina, I'm sorry we had to see each other this way." Like, he's looking over, like they're all super uncomfortable with this already. But this was the part where I had to kind of rip out Fudo's heart. And it goes, and they converse for a short time to try and figure out, if there's anybody left of this cult. Serpentara is dead. Serpentina is here and being tortured. Is there anybody left? And if so, do they have the mana bombs? If so, do they know how to place them or where to place them, etc., etc., just to ask her questions. And she kind of looks up at him, and she's only looking at Fudo, and she says, "Do you still think you're doing the right thing, Prince Fudo?" And she addresses him by title, like super formal. It's like, "I didn't realize who you were at first, but after our last encounter, I searched my memory. I asked around to what friends I had left to see who you were, and I've heard a lot of good things. But do you still think you're the good guy here?" And Fudo's like, what do you mean?" Like, I put two and two together. It was you, wasn't it? You were the one that shot Serpentara in the back. And Fudo kind of looks guiltily to one side, and Alzak, like, is about to say something but doesn't. And I go, it was you, wasn't it? It was the two of you. And she kind of looks up at Alzak for just a moment, but then goes back to Fudo. And she goes, "Fudo, why? I did my very best to get your people to safety." And she kind of, like, she jangles one of her chains just a little bit. Like, even her tail has, like, a shackle around it that has it, like, held in one position, so she doesn't try to choke anybody with it. And she goes, "I made deals with your people to get you out of that burrow and further inland, to get your people to safety, to get you out of this mess with Great Lord Cthulhu, with Oceanrim, to get you further out of the way. Who do you think it was that approved Stands with a Fist's new arm? I was there, Prince Fudo. I was in the next room negotiating how to make this mithril arm happen." And Fudo, like his eyebrows kind of go up just a little bit. And she goes, "And in return, you have assassinated my sister, blown up my home, killed my friends. You've handed me over to these paladins to be tortured and beaten and raped so that I'll give up the location of my few remaining friends. Do you really think you're the good guy in all this? Do you?" And Serpentina, there's a better way than what you're doing, killing tens of thousands of people. Tens of thousands of people. We've done this before. Tens of thousands is a drop in the bucket, Prince Fudo, and not a one of those tens of thousands were your people. And yet you have gone out of your way to destroy everything that I have ever held dear. Do you really think you're doing the right thing? I have nothing left. You have destroyed everything I ever loved, and doomed the world on the wayside. And Fudo's like, what is the right thing? You can't kill tens of thousands of people. I can if it means to save the world. And if you want to keep doing the right thing, I mean, you can try. My methods have worked in the past. If you think you can do better, please try for it. I'm not going anywhere. And she kind of hangs on her chains for a while. And the party is completely silent, like to the point where like Talitha and Alzak kind of leave the room. Like I was expecting Alzak to read her mind and find out where the remaining cultists were, but he was so uncomfortable he didn't even think to do that. And finally Serpentina kind of looks up at Fudo and goes, "My family is dead. My friends are dead. My home is destroyed. Oceanrim is doomed. If you want to keep doing the right thing, Prince Fudo," she kind of leans her head to one side and gestures with her nose. And she goes, "There's a knife on the table behind you." And I kind of let this sit for a moment. And it is dead silent for a long time. Like, the entire storyline for Fudo has been laid out in front of him. She took his people to safety so they would not be involved. And made all these trades so that the Padclaw tribe would be out of the way when all this shit in Oceanrim started going down. And from her perspective, her sister's dead, her friends are dead, her house got blown up, her secret base is decimated and matchsticks now. Her friends are all either dead or scattered to the winds. What few of them are left is like, Fudo is like the most evil bastard she has ever met after she tried to show him mercy to get him and the other kobold out of the way. And she's basically like, "Just fucking kill me. I have nothing left." And Fudo thinks on this for a while, and he pulls his short sword and he kind of pries her off the wall. He breaks the manticles that are on her wrist and her tail so that she can at least like collapse forward onto her hands and knees. And he goes and he grabs the knife and he throws it in front of her. He says, if you want things to go that way, then you do it yourself. I will not be a part of any plan that saves the world that results in so many deaths. Your life is your own. And he turns and he leaves. And he slams the door behind him with a heavy clang. And Alzak and Talitha and Lady Firefall are all kind of standing there. Everybody is super uncomfortable with everything that has happened. And I say, "Fudo, you can hear between the bars, like the little window that's there behind you, I hate you. I hate you all." And then you hear a body hit the floor. And there's a big silence, and they head back to the Mages Academy with all this that has happened. And I go, "Okay, well, that was really heavy. We're going to stop there for today." And everybody at the table is super uncomfortable with everything that has just happened. And Fudo has another scar to bear on his psyche. But that is where we stopped, so that is where I will stop today. So, I will see you guys on the next D&D Stories. Keep gaming. Hi guys, T here. Remember to hit that like button for me on your way out. If you'd like to see artwork and maps from my gaming table, check out the D&D Stories Facebook page. Also, I have a Patreon if you'd like to toss a few gold pieces into your humble bard's hat. Links in the description below. Keep gaming!